the biggest divide in politics right now is between people who are paying close attention to politics and people who are not. And so if you look at polls of voters who say that they're following the race closely, getting their news from TV, getting their news from newspapers, Joe Biden has a huge lead with those voters, and that's true within the Democratic Party as well. I think where he's struggling is among younger voters, black voters, Latino voters, white voters, people who just aren't paying as close attention to politics, who aren't tuned in.
That was ex-Obama aide Jon Favreau, who's also the host of the Pod Save America podcast. He was speaking to Joe Scarborough this morning about why young Americans who really did rally in support of Joe Biden in 2020 have really soured on Biden this time around and don't appear to want to vote for him. Now, what you've already heard, in my opinion, was kind of condescending, but it's about to get even more condescending because Favreau went on to argue that in order to win back those voters, the Democratic Party needs to do basically nothing for them. I mean, at least that's what I got from this exchange. He says that, you just need to simply remind young people about all the wonderful things that Joe Biden has accomplished for them. Let's hear him make the argument and then we'll discuss.
When you get people to think about how this election actually matters to their own lives, then you see a lot of these voters, and by the way, they're voters who cast their ballots for Joe Biden in 2020 and have just become cynical since. So it's easier to get those voters back than to get people who've never voted before to actually vote. So when you actually talk about the stakes of the election, you talk about what Joe Biden's done, what he's going to do, you start seeing a lot of these voters move.
So the argument is, well, you just have to remind them about some of the positive changes that young people experienced under the Biden administration versus the Trump administration. And I think maybe that argument would make sense absent the big issue that young people are fired up about right now on the Democratic side, of course, and that's the ongoing war in Gaza. And they've been saying over and over and over again that that issue makes everything else pale in comparison. What's frustrating to me, Cenk, is it just feels like no one in the Democratic Party is paying attention to that. Or they know that that's the case, but they don't want it to be the case, so they just dismiss it. Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
So there's so many things here. So one is that, and later one of them said that we just have to re-educate young people on the Israel issue. Oh, well, if you put us in camps, maybe that'll make us change our minds. And by the way, look, maybe he said it in a way that he didn't mean it, but he did say something akin to that, and it was terrible. It sounded terrible. And so I'm trying to be kind here. These guys are not bad guys. They're not, we just disagree. And so, but their number one problem, Anna, is that they think, well, okay, they're not paying attention. And once the election comes closer, then all of a sudden they'll pay attention and then we'll be able to re-educate them and then they will vote for Biden.
No, brother.
But there's a number of things that are wrong with that. But the biggest missing link that they do not understand is that, no, as things get closer to the election, it's not like those young people that are not watching Morning Joe and reading the Washington Post are going to all of a sudden turn around and go, wait, the election's here, let me pick up a copy of the Washington Post and I gotta find out what Scarborough and Mika are saying about it. They're not watching or reading mainstream news. You're not going to be able to re-educate them.
Yeah, and by the way, re-educate them, it's the assumption that young voters in this country are just like totally oblivious, not paying attention to politics. That might have been true when I was growing up, when I was in college. I remember when I was in college, none of my peers were really paying attention to politics. That all changed, especially after the election of Donald Trump. Young people are more informed and more politically engaged than I've ever experienced in my lifetime. And so it's already condescending and honestly insulting to just assume that young people are ignorant of what's going on.
Yeah, so that gets to the second gigantic problem in their logic, which is, well, if young people knew how benevolent Israel was, they would obviously change their position and say, oh yeah, I think killing 37,000 people, 15,000 innocent children was a great idea. Well, thank you for re-educating me, mainstream media. Well, golly gee, I now see the error of my ways. No, young people have more information, not less information. They are more correct as to what is actually happening on the ground than the propaganda that is. So they think in their mind, because they're from the old world, right? Well, if you read the Washington Post, then you are smart and educated and you have the correct position. If you don't, you are an imbecile and a fool and a young person who's not paying attention. No. They saw the videos in Gaza. They see that Gaza is leveled. So you can do all the propaganda you want on Morning Joe about how wonderful and angelic the Israeli government is and the Israeli Defense Forces are. They're not gonna buy it because it ain't true. So what I'm seeing here is enormous frustration from the establishment saying, why won't they listen to our propaganda anymore? We used to control them completely with our propaganda, and now the propaganda isn't working. But don't worry, when it gets close to the election, they're all going to magically tune in to the old channels of propaganda, and we're going to be able to convince them that Joe Biden is an angel. Now, by the way, there's a different way to win the election, but that ain't it.
That ain't it. Yeah, and look, I just want to say, I acknowledge that there have been some policies that the Biden administration has accomplished that are good policies. Ending junk fees, canceling, some student loan debt, doing a revamp of the student loan repayment program so people aren't crushed by their student loan debt. Like, these are good policies, and we have given Biden credit for that. But I also need the Democratic consultants and Biden's aides and all of the people who are making comments similar to what you're hearing on Joe Scarborough's show to understand that all of those issues, for some, not all Democratic voters certainly, and certainly not for all young Democratic voters, those issues end up paling in comparison when you see that brutal war in Gaza and you understand that Biden is literally willing to risk his re-election in order to continue enabling the far right-wing government of Israel, continue sending tens of billions of dollars to Israel so they can buy more weapons and more bombs to drop on Palestinian civilians. That stuff makes everything else Biden did pale in comparison for voters like me. And I also need people to understand this because I think there's a portion of the audience that gets really frustrated with me because they still, they buy into the lesser of two evils thing. And if that's the way you see this election, that's totally fine. But what I'm currently living through in real time is what my ancestors went through in Armenia at the hands of the Turks, okay? When the Armenian genocide happened. I have to live through that by watching what happened to my ancestors and the Armenian people in real time. And then the Democratic establishment expects me to turn around and vote for Biden because he's the lesser of two evils. What he's carrying out right now, or at least enabling Israel to carry out, is one of the most evil things I have ever witnessed in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's hard to make the case that the other guy is too evil when you're funding a genocide. That's a super hard case to make. Now, again, if we were on cable news, they would tell us, shush, we're in the middle of re-education here. Okay, let's take out the word re. Let's assume that that was a mistake, okay? Just talking about education versus our plan, which is action. Okay, so their plan is, don't worry, in October, we'll educate all these young idiots and show them how great Biden has been, including on Gaza. Good luck, okay? And by the way, we'll go on social, we won't just do Morning Joe. We're wising up, we'll do, Joe Biden's doing social media now. He's on TikTok while trying to ban TikTok. You think that's gonna work? You think the kids on TikTok and all the people on TikTok, they never heard that Joe Biden's trying to ban TikTok? And that they're just gonna be like, oh, Joe Biden, what a cool guy. I can't wait to vote for him. I hear he's on TikTok right before he ends the entire app.
Yeah,
I did a video saying hashtag go ban yourself. So it doesn't mean that I like Trump. It means it is monumentally stupid to pretend that you're cool and hip with young people by going on TikTok while you signed a law banning it. Yeah. So dumb. No, I'm sorry, I'm not properly educated. So our idea is, why don't you try taking some action? Like, so today somebody wrote in, one of our members wrote in about how their student loan was taken care of, $24,000 difference in their life, gigantic difference. And I told them, vote for Biden. Now the thing is, if somebody helps you in your life, then that he's earned your vote. But they did 10% of the student debt instead of 100%, classic Democrat, right? Okay, you say, well, that was complicated, no, Supreme Court, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Why don't you legalize marijuana? It's an easy win. It has no downside. Everybody in the country agrees. Young people would be excited about it, etc. No way, man. Say no to drugs. Yeah, this is the 1980s. Like, I mean, if you're going to be a moron and you're not going to take any action to help people and then hope to educate them later on the microscopic things you did do, no, it's not going to work. It's a stupid, like there's 1,000 things you could do. And of course, number one on that list is, I think Israel misunderstood me. I said end the war in Gaza. And you didn't hear me right, apparently. I'm the president of the United States of America. We're not sending any more money to Israel.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And by the way, on that alone, if that's all you did, Joe Biden would win the election, guaranteed.
I would change course on Biden, for sure. I mean, look, to me, it's so embarrassing to have our leader state that Israel invading Rafah is the red line. And then Israel invades Rafah and Biden does nothing about it. You have Benjamin Netanyahu whining about Biden withholding weapons, pausing a weapons shipment.
Wow.
Okay? Whining and crying about it. And then you have Anthony Blinken, Joe Biden, like in a panic. Oh my God, why? We don't know why he would say that. No, we would never do such a thing. Like, it's embarrassing.
Pathetic.
I want a strong leader. That is what I want. I want a strong leader that gives me confidence that he's gonna protect the country and that he's not gonna be dragged around by a foreign government, okay? Because he's supposed to represent us, not the foreign government. We elected him, okay? We didn't elect Netanyahu. We didn't elect the Likud party in Israel. We elected these politicians specifically to represent our best interests as American citizens.
Yeah.
And that is not what we're getting from Biden. And young people have been saying that over and over again. So spare me these conversations on cable news where they act dumb as if they can't figure out the young people these days and what's going on in their minds. They're very vocal about what they want. It's just that the Democratic Party and the Biden administration is unwilling to listen to them.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Anna, because what I was gonna finish the thought with is, look guys, it's not just that that policy is deeply unpopular with young voters and it's cost Biden 30 points. 30 points among young voters. That's the whole election, okay? But it's also because he looks so weak. Think about how easy this action would be, okay? And how much of a difference it would make. Remember, Netanyahu's enormously unpopular. 75% of Israelis don't want Netanyahu. The world despises Netanyahu. And Netanyahu's very unpopular here in America, okay? And he is like loathed by American youth. If the next time Netanyahu comes out and slaps Biden across the face publicly, which he does every other week, and Anna mentioned one example, but he's done it at least half a dozen times, right? The next time he does it, if Biden comes out and says, what did you say? You're saying I gotta apologize to you. No, brother, you got this situation wrong. We gave you 20 billion, you didn't give us 20 billion. No, I'm stopping all the payments and all the bombs until you get rid of this Netanyahu clown because he's destroying Israel and Gaza. And I won't stand it. I love Israel too much to let this monster destroy them, okay? Now, you didn't say anything, like even people who love Israel will go, yeah, hey, thank you, finally, right? Some of them might be mad, etc., but what are you worried about? Let's be honest, the only thing you're worried about is AIPAC. But they will never, ever, ever have that honest conversation on television, ever, right? So then, okay, if you're gonna lie to people, nobody's gonna believe you. Nobody's gonna get re-educated by you. But put an AIPAC aside. If all Joe Biden did was what I just suggested, everybody would love him because he was so strong. There's almost no downside because everybody already hates Netanyahu. And he would regain the popular vote. And you know how Republicans and Trump would react? Since they're all funded by AIPAC, they would come out and go, how dare you defy Netanyahu? We should be Netanyahu's servant. It's perfect. Then you grab the moral high ground. But Joe Biden doesn't want to win the election. He doesn't want to take a single action that would help him win the election. Instead, he wants Pod Save America and Morning Joe to save him by doing enough education of the dumb youth,
right,
so that they'll be forced to vote for Joe Biden.
By shaming voters, by shaming young people who have not bought into Biden because of this war in Gaza. That's what it's really about. Anyway, I do want to give Tommy Vietor credit because he's the only one who brought up the war in Gaza, and he was accurate in stating that that's one of the main issues that young people are concerned about. Everyone else was either pretending to be dumb about it or is legitimately dumb about it.
And Tommy didn't say that he should end the war in Gaza or he should do a single thing about it. He just said that's why he's unpopular. So he's at least on the right path. He's not detached from reality. But the rest of them, they're just wishing upon a dream. I mean, it's Democratic copium 101. Oh, right before the election, they'll see how great Joe Biden and Israel is. And then they'll all turn around after we've educated them. They'll start reading the New York Times and then we'll get them to vote for us. Okay, good. And we'll tell them how terrible Trump is because they don't know. They don't know how terrible Trump is? That's your genius plan? Well, good luck with that plan because you're definitely going to lose. And then we're all going to be stuck with Trump because of you.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.